Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to debate the budget debate and support what has been, as advanced by many, to be a most brilliant budget, one of the most reforming budgets of the last quarter century. And may I congratulate the Honourable Bill English for the work that he and his officials have put into stitching together what is a comprehensive budget that will lift our long-term economic growth, Mr. Speaker, create jobs, boost New Zealanders' incomes, raise our living standards and produce world-class public services. Mr. Speaker, I also rise to congratulate the ministers responsible for putting together the various departmental budgets, the officials who put in long hours to put this budget together, and it really is a piece of work that is to be commended. Mr. Speaker, the tax reforms that were put in the budget were really about making a more even and fair tax system. The tax reform was one of the biggest reforms, as I've stated. GST will rise to 15%, but people across the country will be compensated not only in terms of tax cuts to personal income, but also to beneficiaries who will see their compensation rise to compensate for that rise in GST. Mr. Speaker, one of the pieces of tax reform that is not spoken about much in this debate is the decrease in the company tax rate to 28%. And Mr. Speaker, when I go and visit the businesses in Maunga-Kia, my electorate, businesses like Massport in Mount Wellington, businesses like Sanitarium in Royal Oak, they are, without prejudice, satisfied and happy with the measures that were taken in this budget of 2010. Mr. Speaker, the budget also focused very much on priority spending in government, and that priority spending is moved towards those portfolios that require more attention. They are, of course, health, education, law and order, and it's reflected in the last 19 months that we've been in government. The type of legislation and the types of reforms in those areas have been comprehensive. Mr. Speaker, I also commend the budget for the work that is done in the area of infrastructure. Infrastructure, as we know, Mr. Speaker, is the key to a dynamic and successful economy. We inherited an asset, a dud of an asset called Kiwi Rail, but this government has indicated that it's prepared to invest $250 million in the next financial year to support that Kiwi Rail investment and to create and put that investment back on an even keel. That will not happen in the next financial year, but it will happen in time. Mr. Speaker, the other area in terms of investment that is critical is the investment in our schools. And this budget puts more than $177 million for new school property. And certainly I'm happy, and local residents in Onehunga are happy with the investment put into Onehunga High School for a new centre that will be built in the next year and a half. Mr. Speaker, it is about infrastructure, and one of the projects in Maunga-Kia that has been a beneficiary of the government's focus on infrastructure is State Highway 20. And State Highway 20, the bridge that is going over Mangere, the Mangere Manukau Harbour, is in fact to be opened in September. And Mr. Speaker, in terms of projects, it is 6 months ahead of schedule. And that is something that the last Labor government could not point to projects being ahead of schedule, projects that are on time, ahead of schedule, to spec and to budget. So, Mr Speaker, it is about infrastructure and it is about education, but it is also about health. And the type of spending that this government are putting into the health resources in order to cater for the health needs of all New Zealanders. And we're looking, Mr Speaker, at more than $1.4 billion a year more than has come into government in the past. And so that is record health spending, Mr Speaker, and it is record health spending because we are prioritising elective surgery, we are putting more money into disability services, and we're also putting $24 million into bowel cancer screening pilot program. So health is very much a priority of this government. Mr Speaker, when you look at social development and housing, we are putting over $134 million over the next 4 years to implement whānau ora. And I had, Mr Speaker, the privilege of going to a whono with the Honourable Georgina Te Huhu and with the Honourable Tariana Turia to meet Pacific providers who are looking to whānau ora in order to apply their services. And Mr Speaker, may I say that the response by the Pacific people and the Pacific services was hugely positive. The response was hugely positive. And it is a new way of doing social services. It is a way, Mr Speaker, that the last government, the last Labor government, had no idea of implementing these types of services. Mr Speaker, it is about a recovery, and this government has had to work through the worst of the recession, the worst of a recession. And now we, through this budget, we are forecast to return to a surplus in the year 2016, which is 3 years earlier than forecast in the last budget of 2009. 3 years earlier, Mr Speaker. So in only 1 year, we've managed to control the debt burden that this country is experiencing. We've managed to control excessive government spending under the last government, and we've managed to better focus services, government services, onto the front line. Mr Speaker, the packages that have been released in terms of tax means that an average family with an income of $76,000 a year, 2 kids, a mortgage, and they will be receiving Working for Families, they are $25 a week better off, sir. Sir, this is a package that has resulted in people looking to this government for hope, looking to this government for aspiration. And it's such a breath of fresh air that we come and we release this budget and we are moving this economy forward. We are creating jobs, we are creating opportunities, and we are making a better New Zealand. Thank you, Mr Speaker.